The Silent Morning. The Zephyrian Empire called it a mercy killing. Admiral Kethvar had used those exact words when he transmitted his final warning to Proxima Research Station 3 days ago. The human outpost had been conducting unauthorized terraforming experiments, violating the galactic preservation protocols that the Empire had established to protect developing worlds from contamination. The humans had 36 hours to evacuate. When the deadline passed and the station's population of 800 researchers refused to abandon their life's work, Kethvar did what the Empire expected of him. One precisely targeted antimatter torpedo reduced 15 years of human scientific achievement to stellar dust. Now his fleet of 37 vessels hung in Earth's outer orbit like silver daggers against the black. They had come to ensure compliance, to inspect Earth's remaining research facilities, and to remind humanity of their place in the galactic hierarchy. The Zephyrians had ruled this sector for over 2 millennia, and their experience with younger species followed predictable patterns. First came defiance, then destruction, then submission. Earth's response had been exactly what Kethvar expected. The Terran Council had issued formal protests through proper diplomatic channels. They demanded investigations, reparations, and justice, but they did so with the polite desperation of a species that understood it had no real power to enforce its demands. The Empire's analysts confirmed that Earth's military capabilities remained laughably primitive. Their largest warships couldn't even survive in deep space without extensive supply lines. What the Empire's surveillance systems hadn't detected was the quiet transformation happening in Earth's orbital sphere. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been waiting for this moment for 7 years, ever since the first Zephyrian patrol ship had accidentally destroyed a human cargo vessel near the Centauri system. As Earth's Director of Orbital Waste Management, she occupied a position that seemed mundane to alien observers. Who would pay attention to humanity's garbage collectors? They should have paid attention. Elena sat in her underground command center beneath the Swiss Alps, surrounded by holographic displays showing every piece of human-made debris in Earth's orbital space. Over the past decade, her department had cataloged 17 million objects larger than a centimeter. Old satellites, spent rocket stages, fragments from construction accidents, pieces of decommissioned space stations. To the galactic community, it was junk. To Elena, it was a canvas. Orbital Sectors 7 through 12 report ready status, announced Marcus Chen, her deputy director. The young engineer's fingers danced across his control panel, coordinating with hidden transmitters that had been secretly installed in thousands of objects over the years. Lunar manufacturing stations confirm all new components are in position. Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Kethvar's flagship maintained a geosynchronous orbit directly above Geneva, its scanning arrays probing Earth's surface like searching fingers. The alien commander wanted to make sure the humans could see his ship when they looked up. He wanted them to remember who held their leash. "What's our status on the memorial database?" Elena asked. "All 800 names verified and uploaded," replied Sarah Kim, the team's memorial coordinator. Sarah had lost her sister in the Proxima Station massacre. Her hands trembled slightly as she worked, but her voice remained steady. "We have full biographical data, images, and personal messages from families." The Zephyrian Empire had made a critical error in their assessment of human psychology. They believed that destroying Proxima Station would teach humanity a lesson about the consequences of defiance. They expected Earth to mourn quietly, to accept the loss, and to comply with future directives out of fear. They had no understanding of how humans actually processed grief. Humans didn't simply mourn their dead. They remembered them, they honored them, they made sure their sacrifices meant something. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Vextha from the flagship's sensor station, her crystalline voice carrying a note of confusion. "We're detecting unusual movement patterns in Earth's orbital debris field." Kethvar turned his 6 eyes toward the tactical display, his metallic carapace clicking against his command throne. The human orbital space looked like a cloud of glittering dust around their blue-green world. typical for a young technological species that hadn't learned proper space hygiene. But Vextha was right. The debris pattern seemed different today. Define unusual, Lieutenant. The objects appear to be undergoing coordinated position changes, sir, micro-adjustments in velocity and trajectory. We initially dismissed them as natural gravitational perturbations, but the patterns are too regular, too purposeful. Kethvar's mandibles clicked in what passed for Zephyrian amusement. You're suggesting that humanity is somehow controlling their orbital junk? Lieutenant, these creatures barely understand fusion power. They certainly don't possess the technology for mass remote guidance systems. But even as he spoke, something nagged at his tactical instincts. Kethavar had commanded star fleets for 4 centuries. He had conquered 17 worlds and negotiated the surrender of 6 different species. His survival had always depended on recognizing when something was wrong, and even when logic suggested otherwise. Expand our sensor sweeps, he ordered. I want detailed tracking on every object larger than 10 centimeters in Earth's orbital space, and send a communication to their planetary government. Remind them that any attempt to move military assets into threatening positions will be considered an act of aggression. The Terran Council's response came within minutes. President Martinez appeared on the communication screen, his weathered face showing appropriate deference and concern. Admiral Kethvar, I want to assure you that Earth has no intention of taking any hostile action. Our orbital traffic control systems are merely conducting routine maintenance on our satellite networks. We're actually working to clear more debris from space, in accordance with your Empire's environmental guidelines. It was a perfectly reasonable explanation. The Zephyrian database confirmed that humans did indeed perform regular orbital cleanup operations. Their primitive chemical rockets were constantly launching to retrieve old satellites and space junk. Such activities posed no threat to ships equipped with energy shields and quantum armor. Kethvar dismissed the communication and returned his attention to more important matters. His engineers were preparing to inspect Earth's primary research facilities, starting with the orbital laboratories around Luna. The Empire needed to ensure that humanity wasn't developing any more unauthorized technologies. The Proxima incident had been regrettable but necessary. He wouldn't allow these young creatures to repeat their mistakes. What the Admiral didn't know was that Elena Rodriguez had been preparing for this inspection for 3 years. Every piece of orbital debris that his sensors were tracking had been equipped with microscopic thruster systems, powered by quantum batteries no larger than dust motes. The technology had been developed in secret by human researchers working in asteroid mining facilities beyond Zephyrian surveillance range. Each object also carried a small holographic projector, again quantum-powered and virtually undetectable when inactive. The entire system had cost Earth's secret budget more than their previous 50 years of space exploration combined, but it was about to prove that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their primitive missiles or their basic energy shields. It was their ability to turn anything into a memorial. As night fell across Earth's western hemisphere, Elena received the final confirmation she had been waiting for. All sectors report full synchronization, Marcus announced. 17 million objects locked onto the Orbital Coordination Network. Memorial database fully distributed. We're ready for activation on your command. Elena looked up at the ceiling of her bunker, knowing that somewhere above the layers of rock and steel, Admiral Kethvar was probably enjoying his evening meal while contemplating the easy conquest of another primitive world. She thought about the 800 researchers who had died at Proxima Station, scientists, engineers, doctors, and teachers who had dedicated their lives to expanding humanity's understanding of the universe. People like Dr. James Patterson, who had spent 20 years developing new atmospheric processors, like Maria Santos, who had been 3 weeks away from completing her doctoral thesis on planetary ecology, like 10-year-old Amy Chen, who had been visiting the station with her mother during a school field trip. The Zephyrian Empire had reduced them all to atoms without a second thought. They had called it a mercy killing and moved on with their day. "Begin activation sequence," Elena commanded, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Show them what human memory looks like. Above Earth, 17 million pieces of space debris began to move with purpose for the first time in T-year existence. Each fragment followed coordinates calculated to the microsecond, positioning themselves with precision that would have been impossible using conventional chemical propulsion. The quantum thrusters were too small for Zephyrian sensors to detect, but their cumulative effect was unmistakable. Admiral Kethvar was reviewing inspection reports when his tactical officer's alarm call shattered the quiet of the flagship's bridge. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately." The tactical display had transformed completely. Instead of random debris scattered throughout Earth's orbital space, Kethvar found himself looking at geometric patterns of light that stretched from the planet's surface to beyond the orbit of Luna. Every piece of human space junk had become part of a vast three-dimensional mandala that pulsed with synchronized luminescence. The sky awakens. The transformation had taken exactly 18 minutes. 17 million objects moving in perfect harmony, their tiny holographic projectors awakening simultaneously as they reached their predetermined positions. From Earth's surface, the night sky looked like it was filled with new constellations, geometric patterns of light that formed and reformed in slow, hypnotic sequences. Admiral Kethvar stood frozen at his command station, his 6 eyes trying to process what his sensors were showing him. The debris field that had surrounded Earth like a random cloud of junk had reorganized itself into something that defied everything he understood about human capabilities. Each fragment pulsed with soft blue light, creating flowing patterns that stretched across thousands of kilometers of space. "How is this possible?" Lieutenant Vextha whispered, her crystalline voice barely audible above the hum of the ship's systems. "Sir, our analysis indicates that each object is equipped with micro-propulsion systems and holographic projection arrays. The power requirements alone should be beyond human technological capacity." But Kethvar wasn't listening to his tactical officer's analysis. His attention was fixed on what the lights were beginning to form. The random pulses were organizing themselves into recognizable shapes, letters, words, a message written across the darkness of space in characters large enough to be visible from Earth's surface. "We remember Proxima," appeared first, the letters formed by thousands of precisely positioned debris fragments, each one glowing with steady blue radiance. The words hung above Earth like a proclamation carved from starlight itself. Then came the names. Dr. James Patterson, Research Director, age 47, survived by wife Sarah and 2 children. The first name appeared below the memorial message, rendered in the same luminous blue script. It remained visible for 30 seconds before fading, replaced by the next. Dr. Maria Santos, Atmospheric Specialist, age 34, Doctorate in Planetary Ecology. Then another. Amy Chen, student, age 10, wanted to be an astronaut. One by one, all 800 names began cycling through the display. Not just names, but ages, professions, dreams, families left behind. The Zephyrian sensors detected additional information flowing through the quantum network: photographs, biographical data, personal messages from loved ones. Each victim of the Proxima Station massacre was being memorialized in individual displays that could be seen from every major human settlement on Earth. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Rathka, his serpentine form coiled around his station in obvious distress. "We're receiving reports from our monitoring stations throughout this sector. Similar displays are activating above every human colony world. Mars, Europa, Titan, the asteroid mining stations. Sir, this phenomenon isn't limited to Earth. It's happening simultaneously across all of human space." Kethvar felt something he hadn't experienced in 4 centuries of military service. Genuine surprise mixed with growing concern. The humans had somehow created a coordinated memorial network that spanned multiple star systems. The technical requirements for such synchronization boggled his mind. Even the Zephyrian Empire would struggle to coordinate simultaneous activities across such vast distances. "Analysis," he commanded, his voice sharp with authority. How long would it take to establish this kind of network? Vextha's mandibles clicked rapidly as she processed sensor data. Based on the complexity of the coordination algorithms and the miniaturization of the technology involved, our estimates suggest a minimum development time of 15 standard years, sir, possibly longer. 15 years. The humans had been planning this memorial system since before they had even encountered the Zephyrian Empire. They had somehow anticipated that they would need a way to honor their dead on a galactic scale. The implications sent a chill through Kethvar's exoskeleton. On Earth's surface, people emerged from their homes to witness the display. In New York, families gathered on rooftops to watch the names scroll across the sky. In Tokyo, crowds filled the streets, pointing upward at the memorial messages floating above their city. In Lagos, children asked their parents what the lights meant and learned about the 800 people who had died defending humanity's right to explore the galaxy. Elena Rodriguez watched the global response through her command center's communication feeds. Social media networks flooded with images and videos of the orbital display. News broadcasters struggled to explain what they were witnessing. Government officials who weren't part of the secret project called emergency meetings, demanding to know how this was possible. But the most important audience wasn't on Earth at all.
"Admiral," Rathka reported, his voice trembling slightly, "we're receiving priority communications from Zephyrian Command. They want an immediate report on the situation here. Additionally, our deep space monitors are detecting increased activity from other galactic civilizations. The crystalline hegemony has redirected 3 survey fleets toward this system. The Void Whisperers are requesting permission to study the human memorial network." The galaxy was taking notice. For the first time since humanity had ventured beyond their own solar system, other civilizations were paying attention to what humans could accomplish, not as a threat to be contained, but as a phenomenon to be studied and understood. The memorial display continued for 6 hours, 800 names, each honored with individual tributes, personal histories, and messages from those who remembered them. As dawn broke across Earth's eastern hemisphere, the lights didn't fade. Instead, they transformed. The names reformed into a new message, written in letters that stretched across Earth's entire orbital space. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten. Humanity remembers. Humanity endures. Admiral Kethvar found himself composing the most difficult report of his military career. How could he explain to the Zephyrian High Command that the primitive species they had dismissed as technologically inferior had just demonstrated capabilities that rivaled those of civilizations thousands of years older? How could he describe a memorial network that turned orbital debris into a galaxy-spanning communication system? Most troubling of all, how could he explain that the humans had been preparing for this moment long before anyone knew they would need to memorialize their dead? "Sir," Vextha interrupted his thoughts, "our xenopsychology specialists have completed their analysis of the human behavioral patterns. I believe this display isn't just a memorial, it's a declaration." "Explain." "The humans aren't just mourning their dead, Admiral. They're showing the galaxy what happens when you attack them. Every civilization monitoring this system now knows that humans don't simply forget injustices. They remember them. They plan for them. They prepare responses that can take decades to implement." Kethvar studied the tactical display, watching as the memorial messages slowly faded and the debris field began returning to its original seemingly random configuration. But he knew now that the appearance of randomness was an illusion. Every piece of that orbital network remained ready to activate again at a moment's notice. "Prepare a full report for Zephyrian Command," he ordered. "Include our recommendations for future interactions with the human species." "What recommendations, sir?" Kethvar looked out at the blue-green world that hung in the viewscreen before him. Somewhere on that planet's surface, the humans who had orchestrated this display were probably already planning their next demonstration of capabilities that the galaxy had underestimated. "Recommend extreme caution," he said finally.
These creatures don't grieve the way other species do. They transform their grief into something far more dangerous. As the Zephyrian fleet prepared to depart Earth's orbital space, Elena Rodriguez received confirmation that similar memorial networks had activated successfully around every human colony in the galaxy. The message had been delivered. The galaxy now understood that humanity possessed capabilities that couldn't be measured by the primitive appearance of their starships or the chemical nature of their rocket engines. They had learned that humans could turn anything into a weapon of memory, and memory was the most powerful force in the universe. It drove species to greatness, motivated them to achieve the impossible, and ensured that sacrifices like those made at Proxima Station would never be forgotten. The sky above Earth looked normal again, filled with nothing more than the familiar stars and the occasional glint of reflected sunlight from orbital debris. But Admiral Kethvar knew, as did every civilization that had witnessed the memorial display, that humanity's true strength lay not in their technology or their military might. It lay in their refusal to let the universe forget.